Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Michigan State's WMA podcast. On today's episode, Jill Carr will be joining us. Jill is a CPA and CFP professional who has previously worked at the IRS and public accounting firms. Currently, Jill works as a financial advisor with Stevens Wealth Management Group. She has a successful blog called Jill's Journal, focused on financial education and empowerment. During today's episode, we discuss her journey to get to where she is now in the industry, work-life balance, qualities of a successful advisor, advice for passing the CFP exam, and so much more. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Michigan State's WMA podcast. Today, we have joining us Jill Carr, who is a CPA and CFP professional and currently works as a wealth advisor at Stevens Wealth Management Group. Welcome, Jill, and thank you so much for being on.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jill, so tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get to where you are today at Stevens.
Sure. So I didn't start out doing financial advising right out of college. I actually went to college twice. My joke is that I loved school so much I went back again. But so in a nutshell, I went to Michigan Tech and I got a degree in technical communication, and I was a technical writer for a little bit. Then I went back to school and got my degree in accounting, and became a CPA, worked at a public firm, then worked at the IRS, and then became a financial advisor about 6 years ago now. So that's me.
Awesome. Yeah. So how was that, transition, working at the IRS, having, this background into, now being a financial advisor?
Yeah. So I'm lucky that everything I kind of did with the accounting career till now, it was all really investment based. So when I worked at the public firm, I worked on a lot of estate and trust taxes, which deal with a lot of investments. And even just having that tax background is really helpful to be a financial advisor, I feel. And then the reason I kind of shifted to the dark side, as I call it, the IRS, was because I wanted a little bit more work-life balance, which it's hard to get in a public accounting firm, especially as a working mom. So went to the IRS, and those were the two extremes. So public accounting was a lot of hours, and the government is not a lot of hours, very slow pace. So I needed something that was different. And I always had kind of wanted to be a financial advisor, and you get to a point where you get older and you're like, it's now or never. So I took a leap and really do not regret changing careers like I did. So
definitely. Yeah. So now as an advisor, what's kind of your work-life balance now? Is it kind of a mixture of, the intense public accounting and, the more laid back IRS, the government involvement? What's that like now?
Yeah, I would say that I have pretty good balance. It's definitely more hours than I was working at the government. But that's just based on kind of what our clients need. There's a lot of flexibility in my time, and I like that I can kind of structure my day. If I need to leave early to take my kids to the doctor or whatever, I have that flexibility, which is really good. And sometimes it means you work a little extra at night or on the weekends, but it's almost 100% up to me and how I work my schedule. So I really like that.
Awesome. Definitely. I also definitely wanted to ask you about this. I saw that you have a blog called Jill's Journal. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that and, what that blog kind of entails?
Sure. So if you go to our website, Stevens with a PH, STEPHENSWMG.com, and click on resources and then click Jill's Journal. That's my blog. I started it a few years ago, and a lot of the posts are more evergreen kind of stuff that isn't necessarily like I don't stay to current topics, but the goal of the blog is to inform kind of newer or younger investors about investing and personal finance topics. So, for example, what is life insurance? Or can I deduct my house on my taxes? That kind of thing. And what's the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA? Those type of blogs is what I typically write on that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So it seems kind of like, it's an empowering blog and more about financial literacy. Now, a lot of our listeners are, young adults, maybe entering into the industry or students. What would you say to them to, help them so that they can continue, keep learning and educating themselves and, becoming financially literate?
Sure. So I definitely think it's important to kind of take charge of your own financial literacy. I don't think we do a good enough job in our school education teaching kids about personal finance. And it's so important. Even if you, we just talked about this on a different thing, even if you get married and like your spouse is the person that does the finances or whatever, it's still important for you to know some basic stuff, even just where are my investment statements, or are we saving for retirement? And for the younger people who are starting to graduate and get involved with jobs and saving for retirement, I really encourage you to check into your workplace retirement plans. A lot of times there's a company match that is essentially free money that you can get for just contributing to your own retirement, and the company will match some of that. And if you look at any of these charts that we financial advisors like to use, the younger you start, the better. So start that Roth IRA, start your 401k, just do something. Even if you don't have a lot of money, something is better than nothing, and it will grow over time. So really important for that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's great. Starting early and, asking yourself early on, those questions, and totally agree. What are some strategies or ways that you best communicate with your clients, to help them prepare for a stable financial future? How do you interact with, maybe newer investors?
Sure. And I think that sometimes money can be a little scary for people. Sometimes people think, if they just ignore the problem, it will go away. That doesn't usually work. So the way I interact with clients and people that come to us for financial help is we first start by getting kind of a sense of where they are now. So, open those statements, figure out what your balances are. How much do you owe? A lot of students are dealing with debt, especially coming out of college and having student loans. And, it might seem very overwhelming to have that, but if you just rip the Band-Aid off and kind of figure out your overall balance sheet picture about what you have coming in, what you have going out, who you owe, and what assets you have, then you can really start to build on that and see what direction you need to take. And I would just encourage people, and I do this with my own clients, that, we work a lot of times with baby steps. So maybe you can't handle all of the, thinking about all of the things all at once, but maybe you start with, okay, for this month, I'm going to concentrate on trying to carve out some money for my retirement plan and looking at how much life insurance I need or something like that. And just kind of taking small steps to move in the right direction.
Yes, taking those steps, working that process. I agree completely. What do you feel are some of the most important qualities, to be a, successful advisor? Some of those qualities that, help you, be confident as an advisor, establish that, trust with your client.
Yeah. So I definitely think that trust is so important. Your clients need to be able to trust you. And so taking out the technical capability of an advisor, because I think, basic table stakes is that you kind of know what a Roth is, and the investment types and things like that. Like that's kind of what everyone who goes into this field knows. But what makes kind of separate the good from the great is an advisor who can be empathetic towards their clients and meet their clients where they are. So we talk a lot about tailoring the client experience. So let's say you have an engineer client. They are going to want different things from you as the advisor than, maybe someone who isn't so detail oriented. And so being able to kind of tailor your client experience to those different types of clients is very important.
Definitely, yes. Tailoring the individual needs and, kind of seeing exactly what their goals are and how you can help them meet them. Yes, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So what is something you think people should know about financial advising or about the industry that's not talked about enough?
I would say that financial advisors can help you in more ways than just investments. I think that, the typical thinking is that we're stockbrokers or just someone who's going to sell you a product or a stock, to buy, and that's all we do. And there's really a lot more to it. A good financial planner now really is concerned with your whole financial picture and kind of helping you with everything from budgeting to insurance to estate planning and things like that. So it's more than just investments.
It's more of a, a holistic view of it for sure.
Right.
I know a lot. So at Michigan State, our wealth management program is like a CFP certified program. So a lot of our students are going to be, soon after graduation taking the CFP exam. So I wanted to ask you, how was that process for you? What made you want to pursue that CFP designation, and, any advice for maybe passing that exam?
Sure. So since I was a CPA, I know a thing about having letters after my name and taking big exams. So it was important to me to have the CFP for the credential to kind of prove that I knew what I was talking about, so to speak. And I've always been a decent test taker, so I wasn't too concerned about it, but it is a lot of material. And so I think, number one, you need to take it seriously that you're going to need a good chunk of time to study for this. And there are lots of courses out there that can help you. I did one that had a self-study component with some live training attached. And I thought that the sample testing of that program was really helpful, because some of the free sample tests you can find out there are not maybe as hard as what a course would provide for you. And if you can pass the course ones, then you typically can pass the actual exam, because I think those are they like try to make it a little bit harder for you so that when you go into the exam, it's easier. And I would just say set a schedule. So I'm a planner, and I figured out kind of all the material I needed to cover and would set a set thing per day. So on X day, I was going to do Y for an hour or whatever. And I really worked out a detailed schedule. And if I didn't get it for the CFP exam, I was trying to wake up early to do it because I have kids and family, and work. And so, so if I didn't get to it in the morning for whatever reason, then I still had to do it. So I had to make time in the day, like either at lunch or after work, to get that in so that I wouldn't get off my schedule. So I was pretty rigid about that. But just realize it's hard and there's a lot of material. So give yourself a good few months to kind of really study. So
yes, for sure. Yes, I think that will be helpful advice for our listeners, and the importance of scheduling and staying disciplined for sure. Yes. This is I guess could be kind of a harder question, but I mean, what do you see for yourself in the future? Maybe the next 5 years or the next 10 years. What do you think that'll look like for you?
Oh, yeah, that is kind of a hard question. I guess for myself, I would like to continue with the firm I'm at and, maybe have some ownership stake in the firm and continue serving clients. I really like that part of my job is meeting with clients and getting to help them. One of my favorite parts of the job is when a client says like, wow, that was really helpful, or thank you, that really helped me. That's like why I do this. And so I guess over the next few years, I would like to continue doing that. And I'd also like to move into more maybe speaking roles and expanding the blog to a podcast and just kind of expanding the financial literacy aspect of what we do. So
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, sounds great. So what would you say to anyone who's maybe considering a career in financial planning, or maybe what do they need to know? And more specifically, what would you say to women who are entering into this, industry and, maybe want a career as a financial advisor?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because there's still a lack of women in this profession. I think I read a statistic that only like 23% of CFPs are women. And the numbers kind of stayed that way for years. So even though we might have more women coming in, there's still women leaving the profession, which I know that myself and the other females at our firm are very engaged in helping with that problem. So I think it's a great career for women because you can have the flexibility to have a family and work life. And it's challenging, so it's also very rewarding. The owner of the firm I work for actually was studying to become a teacher when she got this internship just as like a co-op high school kid, with a financial advisor. And he was like, you should do this, and she had never really thought about it before. And it is a lot like teaching, but the pay is a lot better. And I think too that what I would tell people is that it's not all about sales. So I think that sometimes people are concerned that, oh, if you go into this financial advisor, you have to, sell all your friends and family and just really, be a big salesman. And there is like a sales component, but a lot of times you can start out working for a bigger firm as a service advisor and just get, they have clients for you to work on and you can get your experience and see how it goes. And, if you want to branch out and be that new business developer person, you can, but you don't have to. So.
Yeah, no, I think the 23%, it's hard to hear, but I love like being able to hear from you and, hearing the women leaders in SWMG and all that stuff, I think is really great to hear. And, you bring up the teacher aspect again and, continuously going back to the education, and love that. So we'll kind of end on one last question. Any general advice for WMA and for our listeners? What do you think, we should know?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I definitely think that there's a lot of opportunity in this field. Try and if you're a student, try and get an internship somewhere. It's going to help you so much, even just to see if you like this going forward, before you actually graduate. But and don't be afraid to reach out to people. In fact, I had someone just the other day reach out on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, are you guys doing any internships?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll get you to the right person to ask, though." So don't be afraid to take that leap that might feel uncomfortable, but reach out to people and people really like to help others. So if you come at it, not with like, give me a job or more of like, do you have any advice for me or can you help? Do you know anyone that might be looking? That's really going to get you, I think, where you want. So
Definitely, yes. Completely agree. I mean, what's the worst they can say? No.
Exactly. What's the worst? Just be nice. Yeah. and it'll open a lot of doors for you.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, that kind of concludes our podcast. So thank you so much, Joe, for, sharing a little bit about your journey and, sharing some advice to our listeners. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks, Joe.
If you like what you just heard, please like, comment, and share. This is Lance Mullen, producer of the MSU WMA podcast. MSU WMA, or Michigan State University Wealth Management Association, is a student organization part of the Eli Broad College of Business, located in East Lansing, Michigan. Our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And check out our social media at MSUWMA and MSUWMA.com.